Well, good evening, everyone, and I'm hoping that you're having a wonderful evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining me tonight. I have a few things I want to get off my chest, a few things I want to talk about as it relates to track and field. The Olympics is around the corner, and if you're not excited, I don't know what else to tell you. But trust me, it's going to be a fantastic Olympics, and we're just hoping that we see some great stuff. Tomorrow, as well, we'll have another continental tour there in Switzerland, in Lucerne, and the great Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce will be there. I think I'm going to do a watch along for that. We're setting up a watch along in the afternoon just to take a look at that. And then the last Diamond League before the Olympics in London on Saturday. And we should be doing a watch along for that. And if we're not, then we definitely will do some reactions to what we see. So I've picked out a few things that I want to cover and talk about this evening, and I want to thank you for joining me. One thing I want to say about this channel, when I look at the data, when my producer and I look at the data, we realize that maybe about 80% of the people who spend a lot of time on this channel don't subscribe, and I think it would help us out a lot if you hit the subscribe button. I'm appealing to that because what it does is allow us to deliver a higher quality product over time, and like the video, subscribe. That's the best way to support us. So I want to thank you for joining me. So here's the thing. I was here on Friday and we spent a little time watching the Monaco Diamond League, and I want to unpack a few things from that. But there's no place else that we should start, and I don't think it's fitting that we start obviously in Europe, but fitting that we also start with a woman that a couple weeks ago many of us would have written off from actually challenging for a gold medal in Paris. And I talk about none other than Femke Bol. Now, Femke Bol, new personal best 50.95. Only the great Sydney McLaughlin has gone faster. So she has now become the second woman to go sub 51 over the 400-meter hurdles. That's rarefied air. That's special beyond measure. We'll talk about it. I was really excited when I saw that run for a number of reasons. Only because a few weeks ago we witnessed the incredible Sydney McLaughlin Lavron, and she was just in really fine form. We saw her breaking the world record at the US National Championships. A continuation of her fabulous season. Fantastic over 200 meters, fantastic over the flat 400 meters. And the conversation at that point, and some of it we had on the channel on a couple of lives. And if you read some of the chatter and talk to some of the people who follow the sport, is that the conversation at that point is that no matter what Femke Bol did, she would likely be outclassed in Paris. And then yesterday, just a couple of days ago, Femke decides to shock the world by becoming the second fastest woman to go sub 51 seconds, and by going sub 51 seconds. And this is remarkable because it sets up the battle even more intensely for me. I want to make it clear that she could be still outclassed by Sydney in Paris, but when someone now goes into a rarefied air, into a territory that only Sydney has gone, it suggests that she's in fantastic shape. We're going to see similar stride patterns, I imagine, 14 steps, maybe transition into 15 or something of the sort. And when you look at these two athletes, it's sometimes hard to kind of differentiate where the strengths are in terms of how they'll dominate the race. Maybe it's not always hard, but I think from an endurance standpoint, I probably would think Femke is in better shape. From a speed standpoint, that probably goes to Sydney. But this is amazing. And what happens here? Who comes off the the top of the straightaway first? Who hits hurdle 8, hurdle 9 first? I think those are going to be some interesting things there. I think we're going to see people push the limit, really push the limit of human capability here. We might be very well witnessing the ceiling of the 400-meter hurdles unfold in the next few weeks. I'm not quite sure yet, but that's how I'm taking it. Well, well, good evening, everybody. I want to thank you. Hi, Sonia. What's going on? Hopefully, you're doing well. Just a little track and field live. Feel free to joining as you please. Thanks for coming on. Yeah. So again, Femke, 50.95, second fastest woman now behind Sydney, and only 2 times faster than that 50.95. The world record that Sydney did recently in Eugene of 50.65, and the one she did a few years back as well, also in Eugene in 2022, 50.68. It's much closer than I thought it will be if we just take those times and isolate it. How much faster can Sydney go? I don't know. I think a couple months ago, or weeks ago, I was having this chat. I think All in the Game on the channel brought it up, and he was saying, "Can someone go sub 50?" And I was like, I don't know where they're gonna find that. I'm not quite sure how they make up the extra yards there, the meters, because going sub 50 is different class, right? I don't know if that can happen, but we certainly have women that are in shape right now that would want to push the boundaries of that. I could definitely see maybe a 50 flat at this stage now, maybe 50.1, 50.2. And it's funny because it's just going to be a 2-person race at the front there. And then, we'll wait another 2-3 seconds before other people start to come up in the race. And that is pushing the boundaries because we have some really top class athletes over women's 400 meters this year. Yeah. What's going on, Mark? Yeah, lane draw, will play a factor. I definitely think you're right there. Who gets to watch who. But the beauty about both of those athletes is that they push the boundaries. I feel like you get in a sense that both Sydney and Femke are going to go out hard and very, very hard. My gut feeling is if they both come off the top at the same time, and it's a sprint race, it's possible that Sydney will out sprint her. But it also depends, right? It really also depends. And we're talking about Femke, who's fantastic over 400 flat too. We know what Sydney can do going sub 49 a few times already, and back-to-back years as well. I don't know what we'll get. I agree with you. In a sense, in Paris, I don't believe sub 50 is possible. You mean from a capability standpoint, or just that it probably won't have the conditions for that? Because I think the conditions may not lend itself for that, if I'm being honest. Also, I don't really know if sub 50 is a thing. Sometimes you're living through a moment and you wonder where are the boundaries in sport, and we often don't know. I mean, we're looking at generational talents here. Both of them are, and we're happy to see them at the same time competing. It clearly pushes the sport because they have to think about each other. And we're thinking about we moved the sport from a time where getting sub 53 was significantly considered world class, and being in that 52 range, and you could have a bunch of world records in that period of time. And then Sydney just went outrageous with it. And now it's the same now for Femke, who's coming along. And I think Femke is making up the gap faster than many people might realize. I think she's coming. I mean, when you look at her if we had to just shut our eyes and say what's the kind of ideal type for a 400-meter hurdler, she is it. Femke looks like it, right? She has the build, she's tall, everything, the capacity to run a lot. But I don't know. I don't know if we'll get that 50 sub 50 at all. But I think there is 50.2 in the legs of both of those women, certainly in Sydney, and it's going to be great. Where the bronze medal goes, I think, is the biggest thing in Paris. if you asked me a few weeks ago, I would still say Sydney for me will win it, and then Femke. But now I'm not quite sure. I'm less hesitant to declare a winner at this stage. I really am less hesitant here. Uh, let's see, or I'm hesitant rather. Not what am I saying? Uh, Mark, goal around 50.5 conditions indeed, but we do not know if this is fast track. One fault can cost you a goal. Small margins between the two. A good question you're asking about the track. I like to show off a piece of the track here that I collected in Paris a few months ago while I was there. If you, yeah, I want put the producer is supposed to put out his email on the channel. He doesn't do it, but he can tell you when we'll do a video on the speed of the track. I don't know. If we want to talk about the speed of the track, Mondo says it's their best ever, but they say that all the time. Mondo also talks about the idea that this track here is now improved for both traction control and also the ability for the athlete to put the spike in any direction and not have to kind of readjust their foot. It's built on that. They talk about the idea that they have improved this track since the Tokyo track using a lot of athlete consultation and also artificial intelligence. They said, I don't know. The thing that I think I have no reason to doubt it, and when you see my video, you'll get a sense that that's the case. I just don't think when you look at the design of the Stade de France, I am not quite sure you will get the kind of wind conditions needed, especially for the jumps and also for the sprints, right? There is no really big space in that. There's no opening in the Stade de France to give you breeze that you will need for some world records, right? Or for some records in general. But athletes will arrive in hopefully peak condition. If it's warm night and good conditions in Paris, then it might be good. If you get a little downpour, then we have a different issue when it comes on to knocking off records. But we shall see. We also can't downplay. And I never really talk about this, but the atmosphere of the Olympics often creates something that is, for some athletes, they can soak that in and turn that back out into excellent performances. For other athletes, what we're looking at here is the inability to manage the pressure. We will have to see. The last thing I'll say, that the only kind of judge we have on the Stade de France in terms of delivering conditions favorable in terms of providing tailwinds would be to go back to the 2003 World Championships of Athletics held there. And the wind readings, when you go through all the days, are negligible. They are hovering around zero. You get a little bit above, a little bit below, but you're not seeing the crazy 1.5s and 7s and beyond that might be necessary for some of these top class world records to go. Having said that, I still think we'll get fantastic performances and competition, and oftentimes we look to records, but the rivalry from the athletes are a tremendous thing to kind of soak in. But like you, I actually don't know what the human limit on the 400-meter hurdles is. I just don't know if they're capable of going sub 50. I just don't know. I mean, like, it's a lot there. But if you get there with two women that are in certainly sub 51 shape, then they may push the boundaries, right? I wasn't quite sure if that would have gotten sub 46 the way Varham did it 3 years ago. I mean, I didn't think we'd have gotten sub 51. So is the boundary closed yet? I don't know. Yeah. It certainly seems like it has to be close. If we think within the current parameters, outside of newer enhancements by the equipment or the surface, then I think we're up against it. All right, so that's what I'm saying. Don't forget to put your comments in. Thank you for joining me. Anything you want to talk about, I'm also good for it. I want to go back to Monaco a little bit. So I'm leaving Femke and Sydney, but I'm happy to see it. I'm happy that Femke decided to do a sub 51 before the Olympics. Only from just a personal standpoint, as a fan of the sport, because I don't know. I don't think it was necessary. I mean, if she delivers it in the Olympics, it can. But I think it serves a psychological type of a jab, if you want to think about it in a boxing kind of an analogy, because there's one thing for a woman to only be in the territory of sub 51, only Sydney doing it. And then just before the Olympics, Femke is like, all right, here I am, I've arrived, I'm ready for you as well. That could change the calculus somewhat. I don't know if that could spur Sydney on. It might not do anything, but it gives us an opportunity to speak about whether or not it really matters. So that's how that's how I'm looking at it. All right, so I'm gonna transition and go back to Monaco because we had to watch along, but I also thought Monaco was a really interesting space, and I want to stick with the 400-meter hurdles. Oftentimes, when we talk about the women, we get a chance to talk about the men. The question I have, and I've been kind of mulling over it last couple of days, maybe mostly today, is what did we learn from that 400-meter hurdles in Monaco? That's a kind of an interesting thing to kind of unpack. Also, maybe a secondary question or a lesser question for me would be: was Alison dos Santos playing coy in that race? Right, that's one thing to think about. And depending on how we answer those questions, then we can answer questions around whether or not we have to firmly believe that Rai Benjamin is the true favorite. And perhaps at this stage, maybe Varham might be looking on a bronze. Are those kind of questions that we could think about? Because up until the race in Monaco, I didn't think that Alison dos Santos or Rai Benjamin were showing any kind of weakness that we could talk much about. They were, I think, Alison was undefeated, I believe. And after that race, I don't know how to think about it, right? I mean, it could be there's a moment in it where I felt like at the end of it, he probably could have run harder and he didn't. I mean, he still ran like 47 low, but he didn't go sub 46 like Varham and Benjamin. I think, if I'm not mistaken, DeSantis should be in London on Saturday, so we'll get a chance to see there and we can make a final judgment there. But it's interesting, and I don't want to take away from Rice's super performance because he is in amazing form. What he's delivered for to reclaim the number one spot in terms of the fastest time in the world is important, and I think you got the big three lined up there, and kudos to the guys in Monaco to get the three greatest around, three of the greatest of all time, clearly, to show up and run, and to show up and run this close to the Olympics. And so I thought that was really a special race there. Benjamin's form this year has been superb. He's healthy. He's running really well. He's hurdling really good. I think maybe a couple things he might have, especially coming around the corner, but that's minor. And the thing that Benjamin faced a lot from even me probably as well, a lot of people might say, is some kind of a criticism that we may have about his ability when it comes to winning the big races. And it's something that I think he's internalized. I think I saw an interview with him about it. He watches the comments from other people and he's hearing those statements. And I think he's kind of pushed that in an interesting way. I mean, I like Benjamin a lot. I mean, I also like his, if you're from another sport, his dad is a former cricketer for West Indies. I mean, Winston Benjamin, he and Kenny Benjamin they were from Antigua. I remember them well, behind Walsh and Ambrose back in the day, in the 90s. But anyway, sticking to track and field, he's the favorite. He has to be the favorite. When you think about the big three, I suspect the guy who's struggling the most, and it's hard to say struggling, is Varham. I thought Varham should have won the race a few weeks ago that he lost to Dos Santos. Yesterday, on Friday, that's a different story. And he's struggling for the last few hurdles. I think he's also come out on record to talk about that. And I don't think they'll change because his strategy is to always go out hard That's the thing that they're known for. I think the strategy that they implemented, him and the coach, is what has pushed the boundaries of the 400-meter hurdles for men. And he's not clearly hurdling as clean as he wants on the home stretch, and that could be a factor of just not being in the same kind of condition that he was before. Like Dos Santos, he also has had some injuries in recent years. So I suspect if he can fix those things, then it might be a different story, because the idea of a Varham is always to go out as hard as he can, and he believes he's better than everybody else. I mean, he's shown it over time. And if you follow along, you just don't have enough. But you have a guy who's the youngest in Dos Santos, taller than both him and Benjamin, and more graceful, I suspect, in terms of when thinking about his stride patterns and so on. When he's in full flow, I mean, younger. I mean, it's not like, Ryan and Carson aren't that really old, but they're on the 30s cuff there. So it's, and it's a brutal sport. But I think it's interesting. I mean, I still kind of working through my head about who will win this title. Let me see if there's any comments, because I'm just rambling along. I don't want to miss any. Yeah, what's going on? Let me see here. Can Dos Santos get the gold, or between Varham and Benjamin? So that's the question for me, to be honest with you, Mark. Part of me, when I watched back the race in Monaco, and I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, Dos Santos wasn't at his best, but I also looked at a guy that was like, okay, I'm not gonna beat you guys today, but I'll beat you in Paris. That's how I felt about it. But maybe I'm just internalizing things that's not really there. The thing I'll say, that if they're all at their finest form, then I think maybe Dos Santos. I think Dos Santos has the upward trajectory. We saw him win rather the medal recently. He has injuries. Yeah, I don't know. I think this is the year for Rai. He wants to win it. If Varham defends, then I'm starting to think about where I would rank him now. I mean, not that it matters. I still have Edwin Moses as the greatest 400-meter hurdler ever. But, if Varham wins this gold medal, now we're talking, we start to think through some other stuff. But, we'll work that out. Cheryl, what's going on? How are you doing? For sure, Varham not winning. Yeah, that's the thing. I think the thing about it is, and we must be, to recognize what kind of crazy territory we are in, that we are like trying to figure this out. Because look at it. We're looking at a 4-6 from Rai Benjamin in Eugene. Dos Santos did a 4-6-63. Benjamin had a 4-6-64. Another 4-6-67 for Benjamin as well. Varham has 4-6-70 and 4-6-73. So in the grand scheme, and then there's another 4-6-86 for Dos Santos. There may be another 40. Yeah, and then Varham has a 4-6-98 this season, as well as that he did in Rome. So those are all the 4-6 times, and all of those guys have done it on multiple occasions. And we're talking about, margins. The thing that we're talking about here is no one is outclassing any of them in any kind of a way. Right? So it's not like when we got Varham going sub 4-6. We're talking about if you hit a hurdle, or you don't, well, hitting the hurdle is hard. But if if you're off on the stride, if you don't go out hard enough, if you make a mistake, you could hit in the home stretch if fatigue takes place. We're talking about margins here in terms of deciding where the gold medal will go. That's what I'm saying. So in my head, I'm saying, yeah, I think this might be the year we don't see Karsten winning it. He might be third, and it's between Benjamin and Dos Santos. But it's not like I don't think it's going to be far off unless these guys are going to take it up another notch by now and the Olympics. But if they're taking it up another notch, I suspect all of them can. So it's really tricky. It's almost like thinking about the high hurdles, right? Where you mess around and you make a mistake and you might lose the race. That's how I'm thinking about it. It's just ridiculous. And we must recognize there's been a bunch of other great hurdlers this year breaking through. Even that kid from Jamaica, Malik James Kidd. Obviously, we'll see Rashawn Clark again later this season. And you have McMaster, you have all these guys, CJ Allen, Caleb Deem, all the people who are running fabulous times this year, and they don't even factor. That's just the kind of a ridiculous thing that we're thinking about here. They don't even factor. This is where we are in the 400 meters. I just can't. I mean, I don't know how to process it, to be honest with you. It's a redefining moment for the sport, and you're going to end up in a similar situation where a bunch of people won't get won't walk away with any gold medals, but in years to come, Olympic times and World Championship times will be won by athletes running far less times. It's kind of reminiscent of a few of the boat era years where the times that Johan Blake would have knocked down or Justin Gatlin on a number of occasions or so. They don't get any gold medals for those, but they would have been probably clear favorites for for Paris, right? So this is that's how it works, right? Yeah. So yeah, interesting times there, interesting times. Yeah. Let me see if there's any other comments before I move along again. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So thanks everyone for joining. I know it's not a lot of you tonight, but I always appreciate the people who stick around, hardcore people for sure. So all right, I want to touch on a few more things before we get off tonight. I wanted to come here. I want to go back to the 2019 world champion over the 400 meters for women. Speak none other than Salwa Nassa. And, this might be an interesting take. I've been thinking about it a lot. There's not a lot of reason for me to bring it up, but I'll talk about it now as I'm thinking through it. My question is she going to be on that podium? It's really an interesting way of thinking about it. There's maybe no reasons to say this, but let me see what I can think about it. So she won in Switzerland on a continental tour a few days ago, 49.66, and beating Jaga. And the thing that I've been noticing, or when you look at NASA in particular, is the times over the distance have been trending in the right direction. Uh, she's she's the 11th fastest woman in the world this year. So for me to be saying, can she make the podium? It's you could look at it in an interesting way. And her time actually is the 19th fastest time of the year. When you look at clearly other athletes have run multiple times faster. But she's kind of quietly showing a form that is interesting. Her past, obviously, we know of her past. She had that suspension, but she also has the experience. So this is a woman who, at a very young age, picked up medals at London 2017, right? She had that is a silver, and then she won the world title in Doha. She's 26 years of age. We must remember that. There's a lot in the tank. A woman that's gone 48-14. And I don't think she's anywhere close to that type of time, not even in the slightest. But as the former world champion and coming back, maybe having something to prove, you never know. I'm just like having her on like watch alert right now. I mean, I know there's a number of athletes. I mean, I definitely still think Paulina would win. I mean, Rashidat Adalike for me is also interesting. I want to see what Nikisha Price does if she can find form again in terms of after this collegiate season. Uh, the Americans there. You're thinking about um, Kazmarek. I mean, so it's not even like NASA should be in the conversation, but for some reason, I'm trying to put her in a conversation that maybe she shouldn't be in. That's how I'm thinking about it. I don't know what you guys' thoughts on NASA for sure, but it, I wouldn't put it past her to get on the medal podium. That's the kind of thing, and she's been running the first 200s of a number of these races really hard. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a interesting space. I mean, the Brits to Amba Anin. There's a bunch of women there. Lika Klava stepping up in the last race there in the just recently too, getting uh, season best. Or I think even a personal best, if I'm not mistaken. I have to check that. But yeah, moving up in some really really interesting ways over 400 meters. So that's my thoughts on it. I don't know. I'm just putting it out as a feeler there. Maybe she might be in the mix. Maybe she might be in the mix. Yeah. Again, thanks for joining, guys. I want to continue on a few more things. Get your thoughts in. Anything else you want to talk about? Otherwise, it's just me alone talking, which is fine. But and if I'm saying stuff that you disagree with, I want to know. And if you even agree, let me know too. I want to turn to another guy that I think on any given day we should never worry about, but we've had cause to worry about in the last couple of years. And this is Jakob Ingebrigtsen. And so Jakob, obviously, as we know, in Monaco recently, dropped a 3 minutes 26:73. Ridiculous time. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. When you see a time like that, you're like, can he break El Garouge's world record? Probably. He should be able to. I don't know if he can. But that's not the question I have, or the concern is whether or not this 3:26:73 allows us to think through, or actually maybe does the 3:26:73 suggest that he won't face any problems like he did in the last two world championships? Because I think that is the bigger question when we think about Jakob. It's not his ability. I think he's a cut above everybody else. But can he do this? Because we've seen Jake Whiteman, Josh Kerr beat him back to back in Eugene and Budapest. And those guys are not on the same level physically as him. Right. And so his ability to he's better than those guys and most of the guys out there by far. I mean, those past challenges that he suffered at those world championships were he could be boiling those down to either mental issues or some tactical misjudgments. And I think if you go into the Olympics and you're in 326 shape, I mean, what kind of mistake do you need to make to lose the gold medal? That's the question. I just can't see it. Like I think it must be something he can walk and not worry about this time. But we'll see. We'll definitely see. Let me get to a couple comments. Sonia saying NASA is not in sub 49 shape. She could be in a mix for a medal though. Yeah, I don't think she is. I agree on that. Were she to arrive in sub 49 shape, I would have a lot of questions to ask. Especially I haven't seen no real evidence of it. I mean, starting out in the 50s and then going down. But who knows? I mean, the program could be structured in a different way. Yeah, the only reason why again I'm saying that she could be a medal candidate is just because of the history she has in terms of being on the podium before, and it could matter. And you just never know, right? You just never know. She may go for it and in the final and just go out like we've never seen before, and only a few athletes might be able to run her down. I don't know. We'll see. That would be interesting. But the way she's kind of getting into shape is interesting for me, and that's why I was kind of thinking through that. Yeah. Thanks for that though. All right. So yeah, just to close out on Jakob, I just have to believe that if you are in a 326 shape, then if you come up short at the Olympics, then there's a lot of questions that you have to answer. A lot of questions. At this point, it cannot be, oh, that you don't know how to time the race properly or so. It just can't be. I mean, it's like a 2 second, almost 2 seconds faster than Chariot, right? Who finished second to him in that race, Timothy. So there's guys like Nagus. That was a really great race in Monaco where a bunch of guys were just dropping PBs, right? Like it was like everybody was hitting PBs there or season best or something like that. It was outstanding racing. I got to look at the results again. Yeah, it was a like season best for a bunch of guys. PB for Coleman and season best for Nagus and Neil Gurley season best. Norda season best. So they got 3 or 4 people going sub 30, sub 330. So I don't know. I think world lead personal best era record for Jakob. It is up there, right? It is up there in terms of what we see in track and field. And at this moment, it's possible that he's in close to world record shape. I don't know if he can deliver a world record in an Olympic final. That is not easy to do. Certainly not easy to do. But he's up there now. I mean, he's delivered the fourth fastest time ever. Obviously, the great Hikam El Garouj at 3 minutes 26 flat is the world record, and that's been around since 1998. Yeah, that's a fantastic achievement there. Bernard Lagat has the 3:26:34 when he was running for Kenya. Did that a long time ago too, in '01. Kip Rupp, we don't want to talk about him, but he also dropped something special at 3:26:69. And now you have, guys like Ingebrigtsen. I mean, you're in some really high territory there. People like Morticelli is still in the mix. I don't know if anybody remember him, but he used to be fantastic as well. The other the Algerian there. And so it's only 4 guys in history that has ever gone 3:26. I don't expect Jakob to be anywhere fidgeting around except collecting a gold medal and potentially breaking the world record. That's how I would think about it. And if he doesn't, there's a lot of questions you have to ask. Because I don't see anybody else running sub 327. I just can't see it. All right. Thanks everyone for joining. Don't forget to like the video. I was just going through a few things tonight. I'll be back tomorrow for the watch along for the meet there in Switzerland, Luzerne. All right. I got a few more things I want to touch on before probably get out of here tonight. I was surprised to see, not surprised, I was more of happy to see someone join the sub 9 club again, and in the form of the South African kid Benjamin Richardson. He's making a little bit of noise before everybody starts to get too excited about the performance. We know it was running a tailwind of 1.9. So it's just almost pushing up against the legal limit there. But nevertheless, he's a 20-year-old kid. He drops a 9.86, depending on whatever calculation you do for altitude, or just go to zero win. He's still going sub 10 here, and that is special for him. He has a lot of promise, and not only to do that, he also did fairly decent field. Ronnie Baker was in the race as well, who also went sub 10. So that was a good clocking, and I think he came back later on and even went sub 20 in over 200 meters. So it's good to see. It's good to see someone in the mix. I don't know what that means for him, but it certainly shows that the promise that we saw a few years ago, was it last year or a few years ago, at the U20 championships, is yeah, I think that's actually a long time ago now. It's like going back to like 21 or so, probably, if I'm not mistaken. He's showing some progress there. So I like to see that. I think that was one of my exciting things of the week, and I thought that was really good from the kid. So yeah. All right. I want to talk about one more thing. I want to talk about. I never feel comfortable doing a track and field live, and this season is an interesting one where we don't talk about the great Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce. Normally she would give us a lot to talk about, but she hasn't been running for reasons we all know. But she's slated to run tomorrow. She should be in the 100 meters tomorrow in Switzerland. And the question is, what should we expect? And what is reasonable from Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce at this stage? Again, I always say it, and I say it without any reservation, that no one has had a better career over 100 meters than Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce. And for that, I think she's the greatest over the 100 meters. You do back-to-back at the Olympics, third woman to do that behind Wyoming Tyus and Gail Devers. And only one other woman has done that in the form of Elaine Thompson-Herah. You win 5 championships of world championship titles. It's amazing. She also has a silver and a bronze medal at the Olympics. She's been around so long that it's unthinkable that people can even touch that career. She's hovered in a 960. She's gone really fast time. She's gone I think sub 10.8s more than anybody else, and maybe even sub 10.7s more than anybody else as well. So she's out there, and I've said it many a time. Can you beat her? Yeah, you can. And at this stage, she's pushing 38. You should be beating her, but will it happen? Is also another. It's an interesting question. Like, beating her, taking off the medal podium is interesting. She hardly comes off a medal podium. This might be the toughest one for her yet, but tomorrow will supposedly give us an indication of where she is. We saw her at the Jamaica Championships recently, where she finished third behind Shericka Jackson, who we hope will be in good form as well, and the youngster Tia Clayton, who ran a 10.90 as well in that final. And what we saw from Fraser-Pryce over in the Jamaica Championships was 10.98. Then she went to 10.91 in the semis, and then 10.94 in the final. So she's definitely was in the sub kind of 11 shape, which was very pleasing on the eye. And hopefully, she's rounding into a better shape. So what do we need to see? Do we need to see something in the 10.8s tomorrow, assuming conditions are good for sprinting or better? What will that tell us? It would be great. I mean, if the conditions were decent for sprinting and we saw a low 10.8s or somewhere there, that would really give me a strong indication of our readiness for the Olympics. But I just think it's a marvelous thing that she can, for a woman who announced herself to the world in 2008. Yes, she was at the 2007 World Championships, but she wasn't running as an individual athlete. And she found her way on the top of the podium in 2008 and defended that and won so many titles. And for her to still be a formidable force over the 100 meters at this stage, ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Also, I say it a lot. I don't mean it in any bad way, but there are women out there that allow Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce to beat her. Like even last year, look at last year. She found a way to come on the podium after just basically trying to run into shape at the at the games because of injury. Like that's when you're talking about a legendary person. When they look at you and like, okay, you might be having a great season, but I am not. But I'm still gonna find a way on the podium. Can't you do it another time? Is it a step too far? I don't know the answer to that. It would be really great to see her sign off with a medal. It might be the most difficult one yet. You think about the likes of a Julian Alfred. You think about what Richardson will do, sha'carri, that is. Shericka Jackson, you hope, will be in the mix. And you never know, right? Can, a Clayton, someone find form ridiculous? There's the other Americans there. It's one of those type of years where you just, you never know what you might get. But we'll get a clearer picture of where Fraser-Pryce is tomorrow, and I hope it's a healthy run for her. I hope it's one that she'll be fine with the execution, and one that they walk away and feel good going into the Paris Olympic Games, because there's nothing. I don't think uh, she'll be under any kind of pressure. She's done it all, and I think a lot more people are fearful of Fraser-Pryce than they may lead on to. And if she can come tomorrow and drop something very nice, one or two athletes might look around and wonder, because, you know, if she can get that start right as usual, she can beat you early. And that's what you get from the pocket rocket. Pressure is not a thing that she knows, I don't think. To steal people's, who says this? They're pressures for tires or something like that. That's, I never, I've stolen that for sure. That's, I think, how she thinks about the whole situation. Yeah. Yeah. Wayne, how you doing? Thanks for joining. I'm a Jamaican, but I'm not putting any medal on her. All I'm asking for her is her best. She has done it all. That's a very good way of thinking, of saying it. I think I wouldn't say anything better. Yeah, she owes nothing. I've said it many a time. If Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce had retired 5 years ago, we still would have been just talking about her greatness. When the woman came back after giving birth and won 2 titles, she's just really stunting on them. It's just not, there's just not. It's just like she's just walking around like it's her thing, right? This is how good she's been, and I, I, I I don't want to overplay it, because always that sometimes you move out of just pure, analysis rather into obsession as a fan. But it shouldn't go away that what she's done to be in the sport this long is not normal. And it's even more ridiculous because she's had success beyond anybody. She has had more success than everybody, basically, right? To get up and do the things that she was doing as a 21-year-old and to do them as someone approaching 40 is ridiculous, because you're pushing your body, and you have to ask yourself, like, what is there to do? Like, why would you get up and do this? Anybody familiar with the sport will know that to push yourself to that level is not something that your body should be taking. And she does it, right? So it's like, where's the motivation, right? Like, because it's hard. She could have packed up after London and we'd be like, yo, that was ridiculous. She could have packed up after Moscow in 2013 when she won everything there, including the 200 meters. Yeah. She rolls up into Brazil with a toe injury and still makes the podium. 21, she's like there again behind, one of the greatest races you'll ever see from Elaine Thompson era. And she's then coming back again. It's outstanding. So I don't want us to. That's why I always say it, because sometimes it's just easy to just watch stars go away, and we just don't really appreciate what she's done. Because I tell you, I'm hard pressed to see anybody in the sport of track and field that can deliver that kind of consistency for that length of time. Because when you win so much and you've reached the mountaintop, the proverbial mountaintop, to constantly find ways to motivate yourself to get up and do the things over and over again is just not easy. It takes something beyond just physical ability, beyond the mere mental stuff. It has some serious goals have to be out there and wanting to do this. So that's why I'm always waxing lyrically about her, because it amazed me beyond anything else. Right. And also, we must be honest, like, she's one of the interesting persons in all of sport, especially when it comes to never really, I guess, how can I say this? She just delivers, right? And even in a team setting, she's delivering all over the place on a relay leg when she's supposedly not supposed to be all the time. It's kind of keeping the peace situation. And in years to come, some inquests have to happen over a bunch of these 4x1s for Jamaica over time. But that's for another day. But yeah, it's gonna be fantastic. Hopefully tomorrow she'll deliver something special, in the sense, special, by special I mean something that will give them a taste of where they would like to be in a couple of weeks in Paris. Because if you allow her, she will take it from you. Not saying she will win or anything like that, but she will take it away from you. You will go home crying if you're just merely on a medal podium. She might just destroy you on that. And it's a hard thing. But she eats people's hearts all the time. What's going on, Anya? I think I'm not 100% sure what time exactly the race is on tomorrow, but I believe the Continental Tour starts at 2 p.m. Eastern, if I'm not mistaken. I have to check again. I had looked at that earlier. I believe it's at 2. I believe it starts. I think the let's see, the 100 meters for women tomorrow. I think they may have. I don't know if they have heats, but I think it's gonna be for their time would be, I don't know, it's like 5 something their time tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? No, that's not right. Kemba Nelson's also there tomorrow as well. So it's gonna be like 2041 their time tomorrow, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But I think it starts 2 p.m. Eastern. I have to check again, because the website has been kind of an interesting thing. I can post the thing in the chat just so you can see the details if my producer hasn't already posted that. Let's see. I don't even know where I am now. Give me a second. Okay, let me get back in the studio here. Yeah, I think tomorrow this is yeah. That's the thing for tomorrow, I believe. Uh let's see, Franklin, what's going on here? Okay, I need to remember to tune in. I'm here in Canada. I love Canada. Where in Canada are you? You don't have to say it if you don't, but I do like me some Montreal. I do like Vancouver. Best Asian food outside of Asia. And yeah, I do like Toronto for sure. Got some family in Canada too, so. Franklin is saying, what media is catering the meet tomorrow? I think it's In the United States, it's on Flow Track. So I believe, yeah, I have to Flow Track. As far as I know, I don't. I suspect you could probably find other streams for it elsewhere, but I don't know for sure. But I know I'm watching it on Flow Track. Ontario, yeah, very nice, very nice, very nice. All right, yeah. So it's been, we having some really good stuff tomorrow. I should be back for that. I think I'm going to do a watch along on that, and hopefully by the end of the week we'll do some other stuff. I'll probably do some other sports as well throughout the week, some cricket too. But it's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. If there's nothing else, we'll probably sign off for the night. Uh, and hopefully you enjoyed some of this. And if you do, we'll do it again. All right, you guys take care, and I'll see you probably tomorrow for sure. Bye bye.